Welcome back to the portfolio update videos. Currently, the stock portfolio is set at a combined value of just under 42,000 AUD. This is made up of the over $15,840 I have in my stake portfolio, and I will be adding another 2,000 AUD to it this coming week. Today I just wanted to break down the possible investments of where I'll be allocating these funds and why I'll be doing that. Before we go forward, I just want to give a quick update on how the stock portfolios are sitting since the last video. Obviously the market has traded down now, and my portfolio is now only up 8.77%. It had previously been up around 16 to 18%, but the market has traded down like the majority of my positions. Going through and looking at the overall market, you can see the S&P has traded down over 3.5% this past week and 1.7% the past month. It's still up good on the year, but lately it's been trading down. Overall, my major positions, such as Apple, have had a rough recent time, and even my other consistent positions, like Microsoft, have also been trading down. Another staple in my portfolio is my Costco position, which has actually been up and has been helping balance my portfolio, and is definitely a stock that I'm looking at investing more in the future if it comes down a little bit more. Looking at my Australian portfolio, it's still sitting at a relatively comfortable amount. Nothing has changed in my positions since the last video, with everything staying the same. The only thing that's changed is the market has traded down a little bit. I'm not planning on making any drastic changes to this portfolio, but I will keep investing until it hits $20,000 before the end of this year. The main purpose of this video was to allocate my $2,000 that will be coming in this week and kind of figuring out where I'd like to spread the money. The first and most obvious position is VOO. Currently this is by far the biggest position in my stock portfolio and sits at around $7,607 USD. This takes up around 48% of my total US portfolio, and the goal is to get it to 50%. So I will definitely be investing money into this, and I could potentially buy another 2 shares, taking me to over 21 shares in VOO. Overall, it is very hard to beat the market, as you've probably heard from famous investors such as Warren Buffett, who recommend that regular investors just invest into the S&P and hold for an extended period of time to get the most gains as possible. Obviously, I make videos about my investing journey, but my goal is still to keep things simple and invest in companies that I believe in, and the S&P 500 is a collective of the 500 biggest companies in the US and some of the best companies in the world. So investing into this both diversifies my portfolio and gives me exposure into a bunch of different industries, hoping that I can get gains across the board and overall lift the value of my portfolio. Not only am I looking for capital growth in my VOO position, but even with its small dividend, it's still one of the larger ones in my portfolio, so every dividend payment counts. And I believe the more I invest into this one, my next dividend payment should be around 30 USD. Another position I was definitely looking at allocating some funds into is Microsoft. Microsoft, I've spoken before, has one of my favorite business models out of all the stocks I own in my portfolio and all the ones on my watch list. It has recently traded down from its recent high of 340 all the way down now under 320. Nothing fundamentally has changed in Microsoft's business model, but the only thing is just the overall market and the macro environment. I could definitely see myself investing more in this and hopefully getting it to around $3,000. At one point this was my biggest individual share holding, but Apple has just overtaken it. For long it wasn't my biggest, but as the price dipped around here, I continued to invest and it's had an amazing run up this year. The stock is up 33%, around $78 a share, and I remember buying in whilst it was in the 200s. So whilst it might still seem expensive now, whilst it's in the 300s, this is a position that I don't see myself selling anytime soon, and is something I want to hold for the long term. Every time I look at Microsoft, whether it's an earnings call or it's someone making video or content about them, I just get more encouraged to grow my position. As I hear positive things, I see all the metrics going in the right direction. It's just a company that I don't see myself moving out of anytime soon. Another position of mine that I'd love to invest more money into is Costco. As I said a bit earlier in the video, Costco's had a great month, up 3.65% whilst the markets traded down, and had a great 3 months, up 6.73%. Whilst the investment has had a lot of ups and downs and has seemed quite volatile, it's steadily moved up nearly 20% in the last year, and it's one of my staples in my portfolio, sitting at around 10%. My total equity is around $1,083, and I'd love to grow this. My average share price is only $491 compared to the $558 it sits at now, but the only thing is, I only own a small position at around 2 shares. My goal with this position originally was just to diversify. As you can probably see, the majority of my portfolio is very tech heavy. Even the S&P is heavily weighted by the tech giants that I hold in my portfolio. So getting some extra exposure into Costco, which like Microsoft I believe has one of the best business models in the world, is something that I value. I'm going to continue investing into Costco. Hopefully it can drop down a little bit and I can get in at under $5.50, but even if it doesn't, it's still something that I want to hold for a long time. Yes, it has a really high PE ratio, which scares a lot of customers, but when I assess Costco, it's not something that I worry about. Costco's business model is not to sell a direct product, and they're not really linked to anything with the economy. People are still going into Costco whether there's a recession or whether it's going great. Families will still shop there, and like I said earlier, they're not tied to a specific product, so if something isn't selling, they can easily replace it with something else. People love Costco, and even myself, I use it to go there for things like fuel, sometimes for buying in bulk. It's just a great business model and a great investment, and that's why it's done so well over the past 3 years. You can see it's up nearly 70%, which is beating the S&P. Overall, those are probably the 3 positions that I'm looking at investing in now. I did previously invest a bit into Apple, and I think if it did go under 170, I'd probably invest again, maybe over the likes of Costco. But when the money comes in, I will be putting it into VOO to get it over 20 shares. I will probably put a small amount into Microsoft, and then depending on what Costco's price does, same with Apple, that's where I'll split the remaining third. Overall, the goal with this portfolio is still to gain capital gains. I'm not too worried about dividends. I do speak on them occasionally because it is nice to get, but my main focus is just overall growth in the portfolio's value. I use my Australian portfolio for dividends and franking credits, and that helps balance it out when I'm aiming for capital gains in my US portfolio. If I can get this portfolio to around $20,000 by the middle of next year, I'll be more than happy, as my main goals at the moment are to get my Vanguard portfolio to $20,000 before the end of the year and continue saving up for the purchase of my first property. Overall, it's great to track these positions and track my overall portfolio, as I've been going through some of my older videos and seeing the growth from when my portfolio was just $9,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 to now it's in the $40,000s. Obviously, I want to continue to grow it more and get a better return. But what I've learned over these last 3 years as a young investor has taught me good lessons and has helped me shape my investing philosophy as I go forward. When I originally started, I invested in a lot of speculative companies such as Alibaba, or even my positions like Tesla, which I made a lot of money in, but long term it probably wasn't sustainable with me trading in and out. I now have a different approach of just investing the 50% of my portfolio into the S&P, and then my US portfolio, the rest of the 50% is just in individual stocks that I have a strong belief in. In comparison, my Australian portfolio is all ETFs through Vanguard, which is nice and diverse, and if I was to draw money out of my investments whilst I go towards the first house, I could probably do that out of here whilst still growing the positions. This was just a quick update of where I plan to invest my $2,000 when it comes in the account, and that's going to be across VOO, Microsoft, and either Costco or Apple depending on the prices. Feel free to share how your portfolio is looking as it's traded down, and if you're making the most of this dip, to invest in strong quality companies that you have in your portfolio.